Hi, guys! Welcome to After the Episode with Tyler and Sunday. I'm Sunday.
I'm Tyler.
You guys know
Hello.
Tyler. If you see me around, I'm not on camera much for Predicting Chaos. I've been doing stuff in the background, but I'm very excited to interview our wonderful and amazing DM today. If you haven't watched the first episode, you can catch up on our very first episode. It's up on YouTube. It's on anywhere you get your podcast if you want to listen to it instead of watch it, or both. Yeah, you can check it out. But we're gonna just do some interviewing. I don't think I have a ton of questions that are specific to this campaign, this first run, because we just got introed. So I kind of want to just like ask you some questions about yourself, about D&D, and maybe some of like how you like to run campaigns. I do have a couple questions that are specific to this campaign, but we are going to focus on you. Cool.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna start off with how did you get into D&D?
Oh, how did I get into D&D? So I started playing. I actually started playing Magic in high school, or I started playing Magic a very long time ago. And I got into D&D in high school when one of the guys at my local gaming store asked if I wanted to play, and so it was me and two of my best friends at the time, and the four of us got together and would play. And so he was our DM, and we did a relatively long, few years of D&D together. And yeah, then I started DMing myself after he graduated.
Did you fall in love with it right away?
I did. So he's not watching this. So he was a terrible DM. Terrible DM. Like it was so bad. He would like pit us against each other, and the whole campaign was just our characters as underlings to the character that he played in another campaign, and that he was like this god, and we were just kind of like doing things that he wanted, and he would just kind of swoop in at the end of every combat and be like, well, it looks like you guys need some help. And it was bad. He basically showed me what not to do when you're DMing. And
that's wild.
Yeah, it was rough.
So you got a crash course in
Mhm.
okay, I'm loving this because it's like you were like, somebody is so bad at this, I have to be better. Like I have to do this and do it better because it was that frustrating.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know that was what you're not supposed to do. So like when I started DMing, I was kind of I didn't know what else to do about it. So I was just doing what I thought this is what DMs do. But at some point I was like, oh shit, nobody's having fun. Okay. So
Wow.
yeah.
So you had to change it up. Like you actively noticed that your players weren't having a good time and you were like, let me switch this up.
Yeah. I realized at some point that the most important thing a DM can do, one of the most important things, is making the players feel like they are heroes and not making them feel like they are playing against the dungeon master. Because the dungeon master, makes the villains, but also makes the allies and makes the world. Like the people that they're going to save. The dungeon master makes all those stakes.
Yeah.
And if the players constantly feel like they're being outwitted by the person who created the world, then that's not a fun experience. They need to feel like heroes and not like adversaries.
Wow.
Because it's collective storytelling.
Totally.
And it's not DM versus players. It's DM and players working together to create a beautiful story.
That's really cool. I love that. I actually am going to scroll down and ask you some questions specifically about world building, because I love this idea that you are world building with your players, or like telling the story with your players instead of telling your players a story, right? Like, So like, how do you decide on the tone or like the theme of the world? And do you aim for a specific genre, or does the setting evolve naturally?
So typically, I like high fantasy. I enjoy some steampunk occasionally. I'm not really a sci-fi fan, believe it or not, but as far as tone and mood, I'll typically I'll typically figure out who's playing first, and if it's people that I know, and I'll pitch some idea. I'll be like, okay, so now I have, what if it were like in the mountains and there's this and it's kind of like a grimdark thing, or what if for Reintarnation, for example, it's like a western, high fantasy western, and that's something that there is a story for, and if I have a general plot, and then if the players come to me with backstories, and I'm like, okay, this can fit here, this can fit here, this can fit here, and yeah, the premise is less important than the player backstories to me.
Yeah.
So that's typically what I look for when I'm starting the idea for a campaign.
Does tone change often? Like if all your players, if 3 of your 4 players give you something pretty deep and dark in their backstory, but like one player gives you something pretty goofy and fun, like how do you adjust for tone?
So normally a lot of my campaigns have like aspects of like goofiness. I think most of mine are, for the most part, pretty lighthearted, and then occasionally there will be like something happens where people get emotional and people have to come together. But for the most part, I like to take like the Adventure Time approach. I think
Yeah.
is what I
The
think.
Adventure Time approach. TM.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's like, oh, mathematical, but then all of a sudden at some point, we're crying about a Ice King, So
I love that. That's really, really cool. As someone who has played many D&D campaigns with you, I have witnessed you marry the serious tone, the sad tone, all the array of emotions, and also fit in quite a bit of humor. Cool. That's really cool. Can you tell me like where you got the name Reintarnation from?
I got it from our very own Testy. Is that what we call him
Yeah,
here?
Testy, Captain Testy.
Yeah, our very own Captain Testy actually pitched this idea, and he said,
Really?
yeah, and he said, okay, what if there was, basically it was pretty bare bones, and he said, what if there was a city where it's like old western and it's something to do with coming back to life.
I have to stop you
like,
for a second because apparently it came from Ariel.
That's right. That's very true. It did come from it. Yeah.
Kat is letting me know right now that it came from Ariel. That is so cool. So this was Ariel. Was this your idea? Keep telling us how you talked about it.
How I talked about it with.
Like yeah. How
Testy?
You guys
Yeah.
were talking about the. Mm-hmm.
Well, so I mean that was basically the pitch. Was he said, and that's right. He said Ariel had this idea. His wife, Ariel, had this idea, and he said we call it Reintarnation. And I said, that's going to be the first campaign, because the first campaign for Predicting Chaos was originally not going to be Reintarnation. It was originally going to be something very different, like very different.
Wait, what was it? Tell us.
I won't, because I think that's going to be campaign 2. Is going to be this thing.
No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay.
So I think that's probably going to be it for the second one. But yeah, that was the original Reintarnation was Ariel via Testy.
That is so funny. I had no idea. Ariel is amazing. So you've run a lot of D&D campaigns over the course of your career. Like, what kind of systems or editions of RPGs have you run, and like, how do you decide which one to use?
So I started playing D&D version 3.5 in the early 2000s.
Nerd.
The early 2000s. Thanks. Yeah. And I from there, yeah, I mean, I basically stuck with D&D for as much as I could. But then once I learned about other other game systems, like Fate is really good.
Fate.
I played a few. It's interesting. You use dice, a D6. It's basically a D6 system.
Okay.
But instead of having like classes or things that you're good at, you have maneuvers, which are like things that your character does as like an RP opportunity. and then that kind of informs like how your success goes. There's Monster of the Week, which is also a D6 system. It's fantastic, where you play archetypes instead of classes. So there's like the person who's like the chosen one. There's the person who gets kidnapped all the time. There's like the monster that's reforming. There's the person who hunts monsters. There's things like that. And it's really, really, really nice. It's a really good system. There's the Avatar role-playing game system, which...
You've actually played that!
So our very own Sebastian, or Hex, is the DM for that campaign that I'm a player in.
That's amazing.
I've seen that. Good.
I've seen it on the shelves. I have my doubts about anything in that IP. Obviously, it's like a huge fan. So it's really nice to hear that you're enjoying it. I mean, that's high praise coming from someone who knows a lot and plays a lot.
Yeah, it's so good. Sebastian's an amazing DM.
Shout out.
Yeah. And yeah, so I played that. I'm really excited. So I don't know if anybody... I mean, I know that you're reading Brandon Sanderson stuff.
I am! Yeah.
And so there is an RPG coming out very soon that's the entire Cosmere, which is like every book that he's ever written takes place in the same universe.
Right.
And in this RPG, they've created stats and abilities for every magic system in the Cosmere.
So you're telling me I could be a Knight Radiant?
You could be a Knight Radiant, you could be a Mistborn, you could be from anywhere. You could be from anywhere in the Cosmere, and I'm so fucking excited to play it. It's gonna be so good.
You are such a nerd. I love it. That is so exciting. That is really cool. Well, how do you decide which one to use when you're making a campaign?
Typically, D&D is my go-to. So for the most part, people... D&D is the most popular system, like by far. But... And that's kind of what people like to play. And that's what people are most familiar with generally. That's what audiences are most familiar with. So that's typically what I'll go for. But if I ever get a group... Oh, Call of Cthulhu, also amazing. Oh. And if I ever get a group that says, I want to play something else, then we will absolutely play something else.
So it is really about like the players, like, and what they're most comfortable with is why you choose
absolutely.
That. Yeah.
Absolutely. There is a system that I played in. Sebastian's partner was the DM for it, and it's called Dread. There's no dice rolls. Everyone sits around a table. It's live, and I would love to, like, at some point, I would love to like film a live one-shot for Predicting Chaos where we all play Dread. And it's everyone sits around a table, and there is a Jenga tower in the center of the table. And instead of rolling dice, instead of rolling dice, whenever a character does something and they say, I wanna try and like, and it's specifically horror because of the like suspense element, and the character says, I want to try and sneak past this room. And the DM will say, okay, make a pull. And so you pull a Jenga tower, you pull a brick out, and you stack it on top. And if at any point the tower falls, your character dies immediately. It's so good. It's so cool.
That is so stressful.
Yeah.
I think I've watched Smosh play that.
Probably, yeah. I would love to do... What I would want to do is, on every brick, I would write something, and there would be, like, either a clue to something else that's going to happen, or maybe, like, an event that happens, or an item that they find, something like that. I'm not sure. But I'd need to work on the mechanics. But that's what I would love to do sometime. I'd love to play Dread.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm down. I do have a question from chat. What is your skincare routine, Tyler?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So I use CeraVe the facial cleanser every night. I use their PM formula in the evenings, and then I use their AM formula with SPF 50 every morning. And yeah, it's great.
So that's how you look. That's how you look so young, but have been playing D&D for ages and ages and ages. Timeless, some would say. That's amazing. Not sponsored by CeraVe, but we're open.
Thank you, Chad, and thank you, CeraVe.
So how do you prepare for a session? Can you walk me through like what a planning session would look like for a new episode?
Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to have the skeleton. So when I first start the campaign, I have like 3 bullet points. I have The villain wants something and is having trouble getting it.
Okay.
This is the city that they're in, and this is the overall kind of like, I'll have like a 1-sentence like thesis statement about the campaign. And so, for example, Reintarnations is this, like, if you die in the city, you come back to life, and nobody knows why.
Wild concept,
And that's basically
by the way.
Thanks. Well, thank you, Ariel.
Thank you, Ariel.
And so so for each session, I'll have like the recap, and I'll have that set to music. I'll have generally what I want to happen, but I also know that the players never do that, so I just
Never.
I kind of not a single time. It takes a lot of railroading to just be like, this is what you're doing, and you're doing this.
I know, I have been railroaded by you before. I know what that's like.
Well, because like most players will, like, I think Brendan Lee Mulligan says it better than I do, but like, if you describe the players walking into a tavern and you're like, there's a man in the corner and he has the signet ring of the cleric's family, and he's looking straight at you, and he like crooks his finger to come closer, and then the party's like, who's the other guy? And they're like, I don't know, Boblin the Goblin. And they're like, I want to talk to Boblin the Goblin. And you're like, so
you can't.
That's typically what happens.
Yeah, I relate to, as someone who's never DM'd but has played many times. I want to know what Boblin the Goblin has to say, man. I think is it just like maybe like a player aspect to want to see you on your toes, maybe. Like like you kind of want to just like fuck around a little bit and test the water. Maybe that's why we never stick in path. I actually have a question about that, which is, how do you handle player-driven stories and those players diverging from your campaign path?
So a lot of times, actually, it's so weird. Like, a lot of the most important things that have happened in games that I've run have been because a player did something I was not expecting.
Cool.
And like, a player will either make a decision or choose to, or they'll go a different, whatever it is. If it works, because I love the rule of cool, if it works, then I'll go with it. And oftentimes it will shape the rest of the campaign.
What
like, actually,
cool?
it's already happened in Reintarnation.
Really?
But, yeah. The rule of cool is typically where if the player does something, player says like, oh, can I swing from the chandelier? And I'll be like, fuck yeah, do it. That's the rule of cool.
Oh, okay.
Or like, if the player's like, can I use Ray of Frost, like, to chill like the wine in that guy's goblet? I'd be like, fuck yeah, that's awesome, do it. That's, yeah, things like that. That's the rule of cool.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So how do you keep them focused?
I don't know. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos of Brendan Lee Mulligan, and he said that he has an Aikido style of DMing, and I've tried to adopt that, where if the players do want to do something completely different, like, for example, if the players, for example, need to get on a boat and sail somewhere, and they decide that they want to have tryouts for a crew instead, then I'll say, okay, great. So we'll have tryouts, and then they'll sit down, and we'll play it out within reason.
Within reason.
Yeah.
I'll never forget in our previous campaign when the villain of the entire campaign changed because of one stupid choice of one stupid player, not naming names, definitely not me, going into the one stupid place, and it changed the course of the entire campaign.
Yeah.
How are you that flexible? Like, what does it take to be that flexible?
I've done this for so long. I love storytelling, and I've loved storytelling forever. And D&D kind of reminds me of when I was playing with Legos as a kid, and I had these super complex stories of character relations, and like what would this person do if this happened, and I'd be like, oh, I know exactly what they would do. And so that's kind of like where it comes in for the players, where if they decide to go off the path, and if they decide to do kind of something else, I don't really have to get them back on, because if they want to go in a different direction, then that is the correct direction. Right. Because the story, it's not my story, it's everyone's story. Basically, I just kind of describe what's going on, and then the players choose what they want to do, and then whatever direction they want to go in, it's on me to make that exciting, and it's on me to make sure that there is, like, it's like the simulation in Rick and Morty, where like it just kind of builds itself around them and they're just on a treadmill. That's kind of, it's on me to build that as they're going, even if it's something that I'm not prepared for. Basically, I need to ask a few questions. If they make a hard right turn, I need to say, okay, what were they looking for? What did they want in going in this direction? Like, all right, let's say they want to talk to Boblin. Okay. So the players are like, I want to go talk to Boblin the Goblin. And I'm like, okay, great. And then I'm thinking, what the fuck is Boblin doing? He's probably drinking. He's at a tavern. Okay. So, the players come up to him and he's like, hello, or like whatever the fuck he sounds like. And the players are like, hi. Yeah, they're like, are you Boblin the Goblin? And so then what that tells me is they want to fuck around. So I'm like, okay, fine. We'll fuck around for a bit. We'll fuck around. And then at some point, Boblin will probably be like, okay, I'm gonna go because I have a family, or like I have to go like raid a village or something like that, and then they'll get it out of their system. Or if they don't, and they're like, Boblin, you're ours now. You're in our group. You are our party member. And so then I'd be like, okay, great. So that's a new NPC, and that's basically a familiar that they have. That's a pet.
It's reminding me very much of our previous campaign, Swablin, the Goblin. And how many NPCs were you playing at one point?
They're like 12. It's so many. It was a whole crew of shit people.
We had an entire crew of people Tyler was playing. We want friends. Oh, I love fucking around and finding out, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing that I won't do is I will not RP with myself. Yeah. Because sometimes I'll have like a group of players. Sometimes some players will be like, I want to hear what like so and so has to say to so and so, and I'll be like, well, they're getting into it, and they were like, no, play it out, and I'm like, I'm not gonna just act with myself for like 10 minutes while you guys watch. That's not nobody wants that. So
I mean, we do want that. That's the problem. How many NPCs do we have in Reintarnation right now?
Right now, there's not too many. Well, so I mean, it's like two. There's at least 10, I think.
Okay, at least 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
should open chat.
I'm reading it. You're fine.
Oh, okay, great.
But like, so I have a fun one for you. If you could, and I think I might know the answer. If you could, Tyler, live in a fictional universe for a day, which one would you go to and why?
If I could live in any fictional universe for a day?
For a day, yeah.
Oh,
He's like going through all of the fictional universes that he loves. There's too many.
I'm just like, my slam done, like my gut reaction is take me to the Shire and let me like smoke old Toby and drink ale and eat and like, but like I don't want to go as a person. I want to go as a hobbit. Like, make me into a hobbit. Make me just like a normal, regular Tyler hobbit. Which is probably like 2 feet shorter than what I am now, and then like just like exist and just party around with some fool of a toque. Like that's
hell yeah,
that's me. That's what I would do.
The last time,
gut reaction.
I love that. That's such a good answer. The last time that I got sick, I watched Fellowship, but I turned it off right after they leave the Shire because I just wanted that like comfort scene of like the Bilbo's party and like them all hanging out in the Shire. Yeah, very, very good. Super relatable. I thought you were going to say Brandon Sanderson Cosmere.
No. Like every planet in that he writes is undergoing a terrible conflict. Like I would never do it. Somebody asked him, they're like, what planet would you live on that you wrote? And he was like, hold on, let me write one where nothing bad happens.
Right.
And then I'll live on that one. he was like, every planet that I've written has like an angry god that's trying to destroy everything, or like there's something terrible going on. And yeah, so no, I would never pick the Cosmere. I would love to like.
Go ahead.
No, I would love to have like powers from the Cosmere, but
Sure.
that's not, I'd never live there for sure.
What about Full Metal Alchemist universe?
I mean, maybe like post Full Metal Alchemist, I'd probably want to live there because then I wouldn't have to worry. Yeah, I wouldn't have to worry about like the events of Full Metal Alchemist happening.
I find it very hard to believe that you do not want to go on an adventure to save the world.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Tyler's like, I'm tired.
I like to sit back, I like to be a hobbit. Yeah, it's the Shire. It's 100% the Shire. I don't even know why I'm pretending it's,
You're right.
It's definitely the Shire. Like that's
so funny.
That's got to be it.
So,
it's the Shire. Sorry.
So most of your homebrew campaigns and stuff that you've done over the years as a DM, it takes place in the same Cosmere or universe. And so I have this fun question for you. If you were going to create a holiday in your homebrew universe, what would it be called, and how would people celebrate it?
That's such a good question, Sundae. Oh my god, that's so good. So I think there already is a holiday in, at least on Aranel, which is the continent that I've had most of my campaigns on. It's Pride Month. And and so like it's all Pride Month. Yeah.
Bella literally says it in the chat the second you
really?
Said, the same time
oh my God.
it came out. Yeah. Happy Pride Month. Gay.
That's too amazing. Funny. That's so funny.
That's
yeah,
so cool.
But no, I think like
any differently than we do here.
Well, so I think that there would be so in my worlds, I guess, or so in like the planet that all the campaigns take place on, there are several events. Like I think most of the holidays would revolve around like heroes that have saved the world or saved like a big thing, and so there would be one called Golden Day, and that's where there was a party like way down south that like defeated, there was like a golden dragon, and so that's kind of how that would relate. How they would celebrate Pride Month, the difference, I think that there would be like, magic would be like recklessly misused in the form of entertainment.
Prestidigitation on a crazy scale.
like people would use like high level spells, like people would shoot fireballs into the air, but like illusion magic would make it like a rainbow, and like there would just be like, I don't know, there would be a ton of stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. There would be druids. Yeah.
There would be druids. Is that the end of that?
There'd be druids.
Okay.
Yeah.
There'd be some druids around.
Mm-hmm,
so, what is your process when creating a new world? Is the concept really broad, or do you like build up those details incrementally?
So when building, it's interesting. When I'm building like a new kind of like campaign setting, everything is on the same world. But if I do build something, it'll either be like in a new continent. Like Reintarnation takes place on the continent of Strife. And what people don't know, I guess what you'll know now, is that the continent of Strife is actually part of a supercontinent of like, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 6 continents that are all as big or larger than Strife. And they all have different storylines. They all have different things going on. There's different geography, different topography. There are different forms of government. But
this is all the same planet?
All the same planet, yeah.
Okay.
And if I do have a new setting, then I will probably just put it on one of those existing continents that I don't have something there yet for. Like, so Strife is part of a supercontinent called the Chain. And there are several continents where I don't know what's going on there yet. But if there is something that I think, well, that would be really cool, that would be great.
He's building it right now. You're seeing it.
Well, so the original concept for Strife is that at some point there was Strife used to be called Shib, and at some point somebody opened a rift in the mountains, and the rift was directly to the abyss where demons are from, and demons just poured out of the rift and just started destroying everything, and the kingdom of Shib started fighting back. They failed, and they moved to this tiny little southern peninsula, and that's where they are now. And now demons are everywhere. There's a big war going on. There was a rift to the Underdark that opened, and now Drow got involved. Good aligned gods got involved. A party of adventurers that were epic levels sacrificed themselves to save part of the continent. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that was and is happening. And Affliction is the only city from Shib that is still standing.
Wow.
Besides south of the wall. There's a huge place called Aegis, which is a giant wall that was created by devils, which are different than demons. And all of Shib is now behind that wall.
Wow.
So that's some... I went down a rabbit hole, but...
I really liked that rabbit hole. I encourage you to go through all rabbit holes. What's the difference between devils and demons?
I'm glad you asked. So they're both evil. Demons are chaos and evil. They're chaotic evil. And so they're mindless killing machines. Most of them are mindless killing machines. They don't care about organization. They don't care about anything. But they embody chaos. They embody evil. Devils embody law and evil. And they are from a different place, the Nine Hells. They are the people that punish evil souls when they die. They are the people that make those contracts, like the Faustian bargains. They're the people that want your souls, and you will sign them over. They are the people that also, because what was that?
You're saying people. Are these people who have turned into, or are they always?
So they're by people. They're the entities. So there's like a whole like history about where they came from. Originally, they were angels that went down and fought demons, and they were there for so long they started to get influenced by them. And so then there was one named Asmodeus who was like, it's actually not so bad down here. Let's just kind of do our thing. And he started harvesting souls, and there was like a whole thing. There's like books written about it in DM's guides and all kinds of shit like that. It's fascinating.
Do you read some of that stuff?
Oh yeah. I've got, so there were in 3.5, there were several books that came out specifically about demons and devils and like drow and like undead and things like that. I soaked it up when I was in high school. And
when you were in high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember all of this lore from years?
Yeah. Wow. It's fascinating the amount of work that they put in to these books and to this lore. Like, it's so good.
Have you ever thought about publishing something into the D&D universe?
I've thought about it, but I don't know what I would do. I could make Aranel into a campaign setting, I guess. But there are some things that I've directly lifted from other properties, and
sure.
I could probably I have to change those around. But I mean, I probably could. There's enough now that I've had like most of the campaigns that I've ever had are on that continent. There's enough lore that like it could be done as a campaign setting.
Is that something that interests you? Writing a campaign setting and publishing it?
If I could, I mean, if I had the time, like if I got fired, I'd probably do it.
It's your plan B.
Yeah, I could see it. I would love to, and I was just talking about this the other day. I would love to DM. I would love to go to a prison and DM for inmates, and do like clinical research about how it could be used as a rehabilitation technique.
Oh my
and
god,
how it
because
can be
it
used.
can.
Yeah, and it can because D&D at the heart of it, I believe, is meant to make the players feel like heroes. And I think that that would be the coolest thing. You can teach community, you can teach like group building, outside of the box solutions that aren't necessarily violent, that aren't, or if they are done without malice and like to protect. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I'd need to do for it, but I would need to talk to a lot of people about it. But I would love to be able to do that. That would be like if I had infinite money, I would probably do a whole documentary about it.
Oh, I mean,
And yeah,
if you partner with a researcher, you could publish.
yeah, and like publish my findings and
Yeah.
like get. And I would want a documentary because then hopefully it would inspire other DMs to be like, this is good, and like we could do this.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I would want to do. I don't know why I went on this tangent.
No,
Uh,
this is a great tangent. If I had known about this, I would have added it to the list of questions. So that's really cool. I mean, where did you come up with this idea?
it was a long time. So when I first heard about people in prisons playing Dungeons and Dragons, there was some article that my grandmother called me once, and she, for the longest time, did not approve of me playing D&D. But one
Really?
day, because she is a biased old lady, but
That's right.
I mean, she cares very deeply. But she called me one day and she said, "I read this article about this guy in prison, and he said that Dungeons and Dragons saved his life." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I've been telling you." And so
Yeah.
and so since then, I was like, "What if we did this? What if this was a thing that didn't have to be an exception? What if this was a proven way to help people, actually help people, not just entertain people, but make their lives actually better through the use of the greatest game of all time."
I know. I know. I've personally had like breakthrough moments. I mean, it's the same. I would honestly say it's therapy, art therapy, in the same way that art therapy or music therapy is, right? Like
Yeah,
expression, storytelling has always been a form of release. That's
yeah,
really cool,
yeah,
Tyler. I didn't know that you were
yeah,
passionate about that, and now I'm passionate about it. So
yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I took music therapy class in grad school, and that was one of the other things. I was like, oh, so like you can actually like music is. Stu, I was like, music is pretty great, but yeah. And
So
then
we talk about
yeah.
that music therapy. Talk about that. I'm really interested to hear what you learned.
Oh my god! So there's anything. I mean, the amount of uses that music therapy, the broad spectrum of things that you can do for music therapy. You can have people make music. You can have like a group. It can be as simple as just like, let's all play in rhythm at the same time, and we'll just see what happens. And that can be relaxing. It can get people to listen to each other. You can just start. You can play like four chords and just be like, I'm gonna sing about whatever's on my mind, and then and I say, here's what I'm worried about, here's what I appreciate, here's what I love, here's what I don't love, but this is me, and I'm gonna wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'll sing about it because it's just a funny little song, and then I said, all right, now try it, like that's like you Steven Universe people, in music, that's like, and then I remember I heard a research study, like the final part of it, and it was this guy who I think, let's see if I can remember it, a homeless man who worked with this music therapist for like months, and then at some point, like my professor played the final recording, and it's just the music therapist and him just singing back to each other just about what's going on. And at some point he said something like, he's like, even when there's clouds, it's still a sunny day for me. And like, I don't know, I was like, this is the best. And things like that are what I love
Do you
about it.
feel like some of those situations or some of those outcomes are the same for players in your campaigns?
I hope so. I would like to, one of my favorite things that I think that I've talked to you about on like a previous thing that we've done is that you can help people work on their problems without them even knowing it, and without you even knowing it. Like I don't know what everybody's problems are. I don't know what's going on through my player. I don't know what worries my players.
He's not like, omnipresent.
Right, and I'm not like a therapist, so like I don't know how, like I lack the tools to help people in that way. But Dungeons and Dragons, people put themselves into their characters. People love their characters ostensibly. You know, when somebody makes a backstory about their character, they put work into it, and there's a reason that they pick what they pick. You know, there's a reason why somebody wants to be a cleric, or there's a reason why somebody said, okay, my character's parents died in a fire, or you know, or something. You know, people want catharsis and people want a satisfying story arc. And even if it doesn't help them with whatever they're going through, it is satisfying to see a compelling story arc. And it is cathartic to see somebody avenge their family, you know, or to watch them make that, to watch a character. I'm a sucker for like the heroic sacrifice trope. It is satisfying.
Is that a dice that you just...
Yeah. I was just fidgeting. Sorry.
Classic.
There's something satisfying in seeing somebody who initially joined the party and who didn't like anyone in the party, who is a loner. There is something very cathartic in watching them sacrifice for this new family that they've made.
That's actually a pretty common trope that we've seen in a lot of media. Yeah. No, I mean,
and for good reason.
I know that I've accidentally put my whole heart and soul into a character. I mean, you know, you don't know that you're doing it, but a lot of the times, like, it's almost like you kind of needed it, or like even if it's a character that isn't like you to start with, and then ends up being some of the best parts of you, in the end, you have no idea.
Yeah. You don't know what your character is going to be like, even in like the first like 5 sessions. You know,
is that like a human nature thing? Like, are we just really attracted to, I don't know, representation of ourselves that's tangible? This might be a loaded fucking question.
Like, why do? So I find that first time players typically, like 8 out of 10 times, a first time player will just make them as a fighter, or like them as a wizard. Right. You know, but like, you get someone playing for years and years and years and making characters, and then like there's some like Reddit post where it's like, yeah, my character is a hat that you know, inhabits a person, and you know, uses a mage hand to like move them out. Yeah, and like that's, you know, but you know, I don't know, I enjoy interesting backstories. I enjoy flawed characters. I enjoy, you know, seeing a character who, like, I would love to have an evil character in the party at some point. In a party at some point. I would love to play an evil character in a party of good people. Like, that would be really cool.
Would you worry about the dynamic between the players if you had a player that was evil?
No, not at all. Because at the end of it, it's still a group game, and it's on the player. If a player comes up to me and says, I want to be an evil character, and I'm like, okay, so like understand that, you know, you're not gonna, you know, be able to just like kill everybody,
right?
But I will trust that it's on the player to come up with a reason for being with this group, because at the end of the day, if the character does things that the group disagrees with, the group has the prerogative to just not be with them, or like send them to jail or kill them.
Right.
So, like, it's on the player. If the player wants to be evil, that's totally fine. I think that's really interesting. And then the player can have, like, we can have little cutscenes where There is a guard, for example. There's a guard that snubs the evil player and like really, really makes them angry. But the player, like what I would expect from a responsible evil player is the character seethes for a bit, makes a note of who the guard is, and then when the whole party is asleep, they sneak out and do what they're going to do.
Right,
And then they come back in the next morning like nothing's wrong.
Wow.
Because the best way to play a lawful evil character, in my opinion, is to be a lawful good character.
That's really interesting. Now I want to play an evil character. I've never wanted to play an evil character before this moment, but now I do. So we're almost a little bit over time, so I just want to ask you like a final question that's super relevant to what we were just talking about. Sundays. What do you look for in players?
I look for a willingness to a genuine desire to play the game, and a genuine desire to play the game with other people, and not to win the game. Because I believe the only way that you can win Dungeons and Dragons is by having fun and not detracting from your fellow players' fun. That includes the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master is still a player. As long as the players have fun, then I have fun. And that's basically what I look for, is are you willing to have fun? And are you willing to not have fun at the expense of your friends?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That, I believe, is the heart of D&D. Is we all have fun together, and we all create a story together. And it might not be an original story, it might not be like it might not be revolutionary, but if you had fun, then that's a great time. And we all had fun together. How great is that? We all got to tell a story together. We all got to just hang out.
Did we have fun? D&D. That's how you win.
Did we have fun? Yeah. If you had fun, then you won playing D&D. Like, it's not about beating somebody. It's not about outsmarting somebody. It's about having fun.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's also about making fun of your friends.
And it's about making fun of your friends.
And making Tyler miserable. Actually, Tyler, I lied. One more question. Can you talk a little bit about why you came up with a villain point and what it is?
Yeah. So, I'm glad you asked, Sundae. So there are times, hero points, inspiration, where like if the players do something amazing and the DM is like, you know what, yeah, go ahead, you re-roll that d20 whenever you want. But a villain point is the opposite. A villain point is when a player does something so cringe, does something so reprehensibly like, oh, why did you do that? Then that's when I get a villain point, and that means that I get to re-roll something, a d20, and I get to do something over.
Like for the villain. Yeah, the villain gets to re-roll like they have a hero point.
Yeah, there are only 2 players who have ever incurred villain points, and that's you and Bella.
Your 2 favorites. Listen,
yeah.
I will never forget that. That was one of the funniest things in the world. I hate it, but like I love like going off script and playing with you, because like that's part of the fun, right? And there are DMs where that you cannot do that with. You cannot play with every DM. You just can't. And I have to say, as a player in many of your campaigns, we can play, and like we're having fun, even when a villain re-rolls a d20 because they rolled shit and they hit me anyway. That's still really fun.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Having fun with everybody and making the DM cringe. I think those are the 2 main things.
Absolutely. All right, so can you leave us with one lore treat for Reintarnation before we log off? A little sneak preview. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, more things are connected than they seem. However, we don't yet have all of the information to connect them together.
Ooh. Take notes, chat. Take note. Write that down. He said it. He said the name of the campaign. No, I'm just kidding.
Reintarnation.
I cannot wait to learn more about this and watch more. You dropped another dice?
It's staying on the floor.
Okay, all right. Was it a D20 at least?
It was. I don't know what I rolled.
Yeah, later after this, I want you to post somewhere, like on Blue Sky or Twitter, or maybe about what you rolled.
I don't even know where it is. It's gone. Yeah.
You'll find it eventually. And I want at least one tweet about what you rolled.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for coming to the after the episode interview. We had a really good time. If you ever have any questions that you want to ask, you're welcome to send them to me in our DMs or like send them in the chat later. Like I'm happy to write it down for our next after the episode. Our next episode actually goes live December 6th. So you can watch that on Twitch. It'll be live streaming at 12. It's a pre-recorded episode, but most of the people in the campaign are hang out in the chat, so you can ask us questions and talk to us. And you can also listen to the first episode on anywhere you get your podcasts, or on YouTube, or on Twitch. I think on Twitch, there's a bunch of places where you can watch the first episode and see the second episode live. It'll also be posted on YouTube if you just want to watch it later and you don't have time to watch it live. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the VOD is available here too. So
is that where this is going? Is this going on YouTube as well?
That's a great question. That is a great question. We will ask our production manager about it. Why the hell not? Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Tyler looking out. Okay. Any last words for us, Tyler?
Be kind and have fun. Good luck.
I'm gonna flip this table. I'm flipping this table.
Be kind, have fun, play D&D.
And piss your DM off. Okay, thanks guys.
Bye everyone.